Welcome to the HR Empowerment Podcast, where we will uncover strategies and new insights from HR professionals who discuss up-to-date regulations, best practices, and the most pressing topics like diversity and equity, leadership, dealing with difficult situations, and much more that affect your bottom line and business. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome to the Agile Workplace. People, places, and processes. The new hybrid work world ahead. Hi, I'm Dr. Deborah Dupree, the Mindset Doc. Circumstances of the last few years have demanded a greater agility, flexibility, and resilience to deal, to face, confront the many, many changes that have been ongoing. Are we prepared? Do we know what to do? Well, I make it my business to stay actively ahead of what's happening so that I can bring some of the latest and greatest to people just like you. The world is certainly more complex than anything we've ever experienced before. The rules, the guidelines, and laws keep changing. As the science around COVID keeps evolving and we keep better understanding just what does this virus do? And how can we begin to live with it at whatever stage it might be without the tragic deaths that we've experienced over the last couple of years? There's ongoing new data challenging us to flex in ways and under circumstances where we have no rule book. We haven't played this game before. However, we have had experiences in the past that can help shape and guide how we approach this evolving world. Well, believe me, there's no right answer, and there's no quick answer. Today's world truly demands that we pause, step back, and reflect on where we've been, where we are, and how we see ourselves moving forward. Today's episode is all about that changing face of the workplace in a changing world of COVID. It's not going to go away. It is time we get prepared to how we move forward. And that's where there is no right answer and there's no quick answer. As I mentioned, there are models, though, of what others have done, what we've done in the past in response to other diseases and illnesses that can provide us with some guidance, shedding insight and sparking ideas for how to rethink our worlds of work. It's really about shifting our mindset. The old way of doing work is simply a thing of the past. I actually am working with a team of people in a particular setting where two people of the team want things to go back the way they were. Well, that just doesn't make sense. And they're resisting it. It doesn't make sense because systems have changed. How they communicate with their communities, the population served, is now different. People don't come on site the way they once did and was once required. We have been creative and innovative in how we use technology. So going back seldom is productive. What we want to do is say what worked in the past that we can carry forward, what's not working so well, and what ideas can we generate collectively, collaboratively, co-laboring with one another to brainstorm ideas that will take us forward. Truly thinking outside the box. It is about shifting the mindset. We'll never go back to life as we once know it. Too many things have changed. We as the people, the places and where we've worked, where we live, and the processes for how we work. I would say technology and efficiency among many lines of work has rapidly developed over the last couple of years, more so than it had in the prior 10 years. And as horrific and devastating as COVID has been, it's also been a game changer in thinking how we do things. In reflection, I think we were sort of stalemating to some degree. There hadn't been a lot of big change since the recession of 2008. Sure, things happen. Sure, we had social and civil unrest. Businesses basically locked down, people locked inside. But that's where the change happened. I had the opportunity to walk through Balboa Park during the pandemic when things got a little bit better during parts of 2021. And there was a particular display of what artists of different backgrounds, different mediums, had done during their pandemic times. It was fascinating to see the creativity that came out of that. It was fascinating what they did when they found the space to think about where they were, what they were experiencing, and what their visions were for moving forward. It's interesting how we need to create that space sometimes to think differently about how we live, where we live, how we work, and what we do for work. We've seen lots of changes. And that's one of the things about change. If we fear change, then that will drive our actions and oftentimes keep us in a limited mindset. On the other hand, if we recognize and accept that change is going to happen, we can then embrace it and move forward with it. Get excited about the possibilities ahead. To be creative and to say, let's step back for a moment. Let's look at the bigger world around us. Let's not just stay focused on what's immediately in front of me. And when we do that, we create space in our own head. And it's like William Ury called it, go to the balcony. Well, why does that resonate so much? Well, when we go to the balcony in a theater, aren't those actually the best seats of the house? We can see the entire theater. We can look down onto the rows of people below. We have a great view of what's happening on the stage, as opposed to if we were sitting down on the floor. Yeah, we can look up and see, but we don't really see what's around us quite so well. Sometimes what we end up seeing by being in the balcony is right in front of us when we're sitting on the floor. But we can't see it. And so that's why the shift in location will help shift our perspective, therefore changing our mindset. When we take a look at people, places, and processes throughout this coming week, there are 3 things to share today as we launch this program. Number 1, be proactive, not reactive. Open your mind to look at the world of work differently. Reimagine and rethink life at your organization, the lives of your coworkers, and the roles and responsibilities for how work is performed. That's a lot of the work that I tend to do, is working with organizations that seem to feel stuck. And we do exactly that. We build a mindset of being proactive, not reactive. Now, certainly, there are some situations where we must react in the moment to get a handle, to take charge, to be in control of something that is emerging unexpectedly. But when we can, we want to be able to have a planned strategy. When we have a planned strategy, then our brains literally function better and work towards that, even when we're not directly focused on the end objective. And when we have a plan, then people can follow along with us. Otherwise, too much uncertainty, unpredictability, instability creates a level of anxiousness. And when we're anxious, we don't trust. Now, building workplace trust is always a challenge, but it's essential for us to come together in ways that we feel psychologically safe, comfortable enough, that we can do our work without threats of harm or injury, psychologically, even more so than physically. We've come a long way, baby, in creating physical safety. Our safety standards today are amazing. And then when we look at all the protocols that have been put in place and what we now easily use and do around personal protective equipment for everybody, not just safety workers. However, we still have a long way to go in creating psychological safety. When we think about how people engage and interact with each other, whether it's our coworkers or whether it's our bosses, that's where we can still create a lack of psychological safety. We have much to do in this arena, and we'll keep talking about that throughout our week. Number 2, the pandemic not only forced us into new ways of doing business, where, how, and when we did our work, we actually proved that we could do it. I mean, the resilience of people over these last couple of years, I feel, is amazing. And I also feel that we haven't quite given people credit for how they rose to the challenge, as I like to say, to keep the lights on and the water running. Many businesses actually thrived, were more profitable than before. Again, largely as a result of changing how we do things. Sure, for some it meant, less operational expenses at the usual place of work because people weren't there. And yet, it did provide an opportunity for organizations to rethink. One of the big things that we'll talk about in one of our upcoming episodes is rethinking the workplace to provide more distancing, but also to provide technology for collaboration with those who may be working remotely, on site, and still creating an opportunity for connection and collaboration. As my good friend and colleague Harold Coleman likes to say, collaboration is really co-laboring, working together. And we oftentimes lose sight of that. And so again, time to be creative in actually how we do work, when we work, and how we work. It's time to rethink policies, practices, and strategies for just all of that, where and how and when employees work. In many cases, employees actually became more productive when technology and internet worked really well. The frustration set in when those things didn't work so well. So, number 3, it's time to rethink diversity. It's no longer just about the inclusion of race, gender, religion, ethnicity, but also about work locations, work possibilities, to generate loyalty and productivity while creating new opportunities. Diversity is much broader than how we used to think about it. It includes many new ideas and practices for getting work done, while also including people, whether they're on-site, remote, hybrid, or wherever they are. Well, coming up next, what do employees want from our changing work world? We'll dive into that even further. So stay tuned, come on back, we have more to deliver. Dr. Deborah Dupree, the Mindset Doc.
Thank you for joining the HR Empowerment Podcast, brought to you by Aurora Training Advantage. We hope you've gained new insight and strategies to navigate the HR profession. We look forward to you joining us again on the HR Empowerment Podcast.